In a trio of cases, 2 currently pending before the Supreme Court and 1 that is likely to land on the justice's doorstep as soon as Tuesday, Donald Trump claims new powers that, if he prevails, would give him near total control over all U.S. fiscal and monetary policy. Now, of course, this is horrific and maddening, but let's also add the caveat in here that our economy's been run by a tiny number of corporate sociopaths for decades now. So it's not like Trump is trying to take it away from the people. It's not like the people had a lot of say in this economy anytime recently, probably ever, but definitely not recently. The first is the ongoing litigation over Trump's tariffs. The court plans to hear 2 challenges to the tariffs, known as Trump v. VOS Selections and Learning Resources v. Trump, in November. At least 10 federal judges have concluded that Trump has exceeded his authority, which is a lovely way to say did illegal shit he shouldn't. Ecclesiastes has asked whether anyone else is going to my show on October 9th. I love that you're coming to it. Just to be clear, I am on the show. I am not the show. The show is Cornel West, Richard Wolff, Chris Hedges, and Laura Flanders. I am like a little sideshow. You know, the person who does the sign language, like when political people are speaking, and that like they're there, but they're not the show. That's me. That's me on that show, October 9th in New York City. Except I won't be doing any sign language because I don't know any. So it's really, that analogy was absolutely wrong. 0 sign language. 10 federal justices have said he exceeded his authority. The amount of money at stake here is massive. Trump's lawyers estimate the tariffs will reduce federal deficits by $4 trillion in the coming years. However, Trump's lawyers are liars. That's why he picked them. That's why he selected them. That was the job interview. I mean, all lawyers, I guess, are liars, but these are particularly awful liars. Yale's budget lab has said it will decrease the deficit by $2.4 trillion. That's over many years. That's until 2035. He's trying to double the amount of money that the government will make from these tariffs. The second case is Department of State. And I'm not, because we've done so many shows on the tariffs and everything, I'm not getting into all the pages of caveats to Trump's tariffs, how they're going to be passed off on American people. They already are. How they're going to ruin any remaining, working with other countries to do a goddamn thing. How it is a waning U.S. empire that's collapsing and trying to just suck some money out of other countries. So many caveats, too many to list, but I've done other shows on that. The second case is Department of State versus AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition. Now, you may think by the name that is a fight over vaccines, but it is not. It is a fight over what federal money Trump is allowed to stop from going to where it should go, is basically what it is. It's currently pending on the court's shadow docket, which is a mix of emergency motions that the court decides without any explanation. AIDS vaccine, the case, involves impoundment, or a president's refusal to spend money that he's required to spend under a federal appropriations law. Basically, this stuff has already been agreed by the federal government to spend this money to send AIDS vaccines to, let's say Africa. I'm guessing it's Africa, but I don't know. And Trump does not want to send that money. He doesn't want to spend it, even though it's all been approved by Congress and everything else. It was signed by the last president. The idea that he wouldn't have to go through with something that's already been approved by all branches of government is a crazy level of power, which, of course, Trump is pushing the level of power he has in every area. The article then says, until very recently, there was widespread consensus that impoundment is illegal, meaning you have to spend the money the way it was written by Congress. In 1969, Justice Department memo, future Chief Justice William Rehnquist wrote that it is, in our view, extremely difficult to formulate a constitutional theory to justify a refusal by the president to comply with a congressional directive to spend. Okay, so that's number 2. And then the final case is Trump v. Cook, which is likely to reach Supreme Court Tuesday. Cook involves Trump's attempt to fire a member of the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors in violation of federal statute, which only allows Fed governors to be fired for cause. Late on Monday, a federal appeals court denied Trump this power, although it did so over the dissent of a judge who previously worked in Trump's White House. The Fed wields tremendous power over the U.S. economy, including the power to temporarily stimulate the economy at the expense of much greater economic turmoil down the road. For this reason, Congress insulated the Fed's leaders from presidential control. It does seem like if you give the current president the power to just fire the Fed when they disagree with him, then what would he do? He'd do exactly what Trump's doing. You fire the ones that disagree, you put in the ones that agree, and then anytime the economy is having difficulty, you change the interest rates to help the economy. That's the goal. That's what Trump wants to happen. So if all three of these cases are decided in Trump's favor by his favorable Supreme Court, it will give him unprecedented control over the U.S. economy. But as I mentioned earlier, let's not forget that the U.S. economy has already been in the control of a tiny number of corporate Ducelinis, tiny number of corporate fascist assholes for many years now. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but let's just temper our excitement a little bit as to how much change this will create